What if one hidden underground site could quietly reshape the balance of power in the Middle East? A facility buried deep inside a mountain, shielded by layers of rock and secrecy, a coordinated operation involving stealth aircraft, electronic disruption, and one of the heaviest bombers ever deployed, and a second phase that didn't just target what was visible, but went far beneath the surface. This wasn't just about a location, it was about what that location represented and what it could enable. To understand why this site mattered so much, we need to go back and see how it was built and why it was nearly impossible to reach. In early 2026, tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran had been building steadily. Diplomatic efforts had slowed. Conversations that once held promise began to lose momentum. At the center of these concerns were advanced missile systems and sensitive infrastructure, much of it hidden from public view. Now, this is based on publicly available information and is presented here purely for educational awareness. One key strategy had defined this landscape for years, placing critical facilities underground, deep beneath mountains. Hidden from satellites, protected from conventional reach, and among all the known locations, one stood out above the rest, hidden near Tehran, yet almost invisible to the world. Picture this, a quiet mountainous corridor just outside Tehran. At first glance, nothing unusual, just terrain and distance. But beneath it, an entire network. The Damavand-Kajir corridor became one of the most strategically significant zones in the region, not because of what was visible, but because of what was hidden. Reports described a vast underground system, a main tunnel stretching nearly 1 kilometer, multiple branches extending outward like veins, and depth anywhere between 20 to 100 meters inside solid mountain rock. This was not accidental. Mountains offered natural protection. They reduced visibility. They absorbed external pressure, and most importantly, they concealed activity. Nearby, there were already facilities linked to missile systems and sensitive industrial processes. Placing this network here created something more than a single site. It became part of a larger, interconnected system. Some reports suggested this location played a role in assembly and storage. Others pointed to specialized equipment housed deep inside, tools that could not be easily replaced. Think about that for a moment. A facility not just hidden, but designed to remain operational even under pressure. And that is what made it so significant. But even the most protected location has a weakness, and that weakness began to appear weeks before the main operation. Have you ever wondered what it takes to make an unreachable place reachable? It doesn't happen all at once, it happens step by step. In late February, a series of actions began targeting the outer layers of protection. Not the facility itself, but what guarded it. Radar systems, command centers, detection networks. Each layer played a role in early warning and response. Over time, these layers started to weaken. Not instantly, but gradually. Continuous pressure made it harder for systems to communicate effectively. Signals became less reliable. Response times slowed. And then came another key factor, electronic disruption. Early warning systems depend on clarity, but when that clarity fades, even advanced systems struggle to function. This phase was not about visibility, it was about reducing awareness. And once awareness begins to fade, even the strongest defenses can become vulnerable. This is the part most people never hear about. Before any major operation, there is often a silent phase, one that reshapes the environment without drawing attention. By the time this phase was complete, something had changed. Locations that were once considered out of reach were no longer unreachable, with the defenses weakened. The path was finally open, and what followed was a highly coordinated, multi-layered operation. What happened next shocked even seasoned analysts. The operation began above the surface. Stealth aircraft moved first, not to target structures directly, but to disrupt what remained of detection systems. This created a window, a moment where movement could happen with reduced visibility. Then came the next step, targeting entry points. Tunnel entrances became the focus. Not to fully collapse them, but to isolate what was inside, precision actions followed, carefully aimed, designed to limit access and movement within the underground network. And then, a shift in scale. Heavy bombers entered the sequence. Platforms designed for depth, not just surface interaction. Their role was different. They were not focused on what could be seen. They were aimed at what was buried. Underground targeting is not the same as surface-level operations. It requires understanding layers, rock structure, spacing. The goal is not just impact, it is disruption of what lies beneath. Specialized equipment, production lines, internal systems that keep the entire network functioning. And here is where it gets interesting. When underground systems are affected, recovery becomes far more complex, access is limited, repairs take longer, and in some cases, operations pause entirely. But this operation was not just about a single site, it was part of something much larger. So the real question is, what was the bigger strategy? Remember what we discussed earlier, this wasn't just about one location. Between March 21 and 23, actions expanded across multiple facilities. Not randomly, but strategically. The focus shifted from individual sites to the entire system, production facilities, storage areas, logistics routes, each one connected, each one dependent on the other. Because in complex systems, disruption doesn't need to be total, it just needs to be targeted. One key element stood out: specialized components. Certain systems, like fuel mixing or precision assembly tools, are difficult to replace, not because they are large, but because they require specific expertise, materials, and time. And under international restrictions, replacing such equipment becomes even more challenging. This is where the broader impact begins to show. Instead of focusing on one outcome, the strategy aimed at slowing the entire cycle. Production slows, storage becomes uncertain, logistics face interruptions, and suddenly the system as a whole begins to feel the pressure. This decision did not just affect one location. Its impact extended across multiple layers of infrastructure, creating a ripple effect far beyond the original target. With so much of the system affected, the real question now is not what happened, but what comes next. What started as a single hidden site turned out to be part of something much larger, a network, a system, a carefully designed structure built not just for function, but for resilience. And what we see here is a shift in how modern geopolitics operates. It is no longer just about visible locations. It is about layered systems, many of them hidden, interconnected, and deeply embedded beneath the surface. Now, this is based on publicly available information and is presented here purely for educational awareness. Looking ahead, there are multiple possibilities: continued escalation or a return to diplomatic discussions. At the same time, the global impact cannot be ignored. Energy routes, regional stability, economic uncertainty, all of these are connected in ways that are not always visible. And perhaps that is the most important takeaway. In today's world, the most critical developments are often the ones we never see, hidden deep beneath the surface, shaping outcomes in ways we are only beginning to understand. If this video made you see the world a little differently, consider subscribing, because there is a lot more to explore.